Hi everyone, welcome back to MMA UK. It's a pleasure to be joined this morning by Tim the Experiment Wilde, a Bellator fighter. Tim, how are you?
I'm good, thank you, mate. How are you?
I'm doing very well, thank you. And living in Birmingham myself, I'm more than aware of Team Renegade and the sheer amount of talent that it possesses, which obviously you're a massive part of. How is it for you as an athlete training there on a day-to-day basis?
Um, it's a blessing, really. Um, you've got top level fighters from all promotions. We're all on the same mission. We all want to be the very best in our division, in our promotion. And we're very lucky. I'm also very lucky that there's also a lot of lightweights, welterweights, and featherweights. So a lot of guys around my category. You got Arnold Allen, Joy Herbert, Leon Edwards, to name a couple. So I'm very lucky that I get to train with these guys every single week and just keep building my craft, keep chasing greatness. And I just wanted to say actually as well, but I've dropped the experiment, so it's just Tim Wilde now.
Oh, is it? Oh, okay. Sorry about that.
No worries. Bellator keep announcing me as that. I have dropped it about 4 or 5 fights ago, so but it's no problem, mate.
Okay. And as you just mentioned, I noticed Leon Edwards was in your corner for your last fight. I've also seen sparring videos of you with Arnold Allen in the lead up to his fight against Calvin Kattar, for example. How beneficial do you find it training with, other really talented fighters?
Yeah, like I said, very mate. Arnold Allen, I think he's ranked what, like fourth now or something, featherweight. He's a very big featherweight as well. So yeah, he could fight a lightweight in reality. So it's great. We worked together a lot. We were both fighting the same night, October the 29th. Him against Katami against Saul, and it was great because although he was a southpaw, he's a similar kind of height and size to Saul, so he could imitate him, and again vice versa with me and Qatar, tall, long striker, so I was able to imitate him a bit. So we had an excellent camp together last time, and yeah, he's a really good training partner as well. So I feel I feel it's been massively beneficial to me. It's really upped my game and raised my game these last few fights. As people, everybody's kind of noticing. And going to Leon, like I'm very lucky to be able, to have his wisdom and knowledge in the corner and to help me throughout these camps and to go to for advice. He's the best in the world currently, and he's the champ, and he's just a wealth of experience. So he's done my last two corners, and as long as he can, I believe he'll always corner me. He seems to have respect for me and enjoy working with me. So I feel blessed for that because he doesn't, he hasn't got the time. He isn't the head coach at Renegade. He hasn't got the time to do it with everyone. Um, just a select few. So, and luckily I'm one of those guys. So
As you just mentioned, you definitely see a personal level of respect between the two of you as well. I think I'm right in saying that before you were at UTC Staffs. For those that don't know, that's another gym based in Wolverhampton. Is there any big differences you see between the two gyms, and how was the switch, between camps?
um, So UTC Staffs was where I started my MMA journey. Um, Christ, maybe what 11 years ago now, and it was a great gym, and still is a great gym. And I was able to really build my craft, and it got me all the way to Bellator. With my own hard work and the coaching there, it got me there. But unfortunately, because it was a small gym, we were just outside of Wolverhampton, Cannock. It's quite a small town. There wasn't many fighters there, so I was finding I was having to travel anyway to get sparring and training. And Leon had previously asked me a few times to come and join him down at Renegade, and for one reason and another, it just never seemed to happen until I fought Brent Primus, and who was the former champ, and that was my debut in Bellator. And I kind of just realised the level a bit, and I was like, well, I need to grow more, I need to develop more, I need to be working with higher level guys, and So I had another fight under UTC staffs, but I kind of through that camp, but that was Charlie Leary, which I won. But I was going to Renegade a lot, like a couple of times a week. And yeah, following that Charlie Leary fight at the start of 2020, I just decided to make the full time change. And it was all amicable. I still see my former coach now weekly because his daughter goes to the same school as me. So, and you know, he wishes me well, and I wish them and the team well. So, but the biggest difference was just the level of bodies that I get to work with every day. You know, and I think that's again that's shown how I've grown over the last couple of 3 years.
Yeah, well, mention, your growth as a fighter. You're seen as a very well-rounded athlete. But I was curious, do you see yourself as very well-rounded, or is there actually an area where you go, actually, I do excel in that?
That's a good question. I like to think of myself as a well-rounded fighter, and in the gym and in fights, I kind of show that I am. But at heart, I'm a striker. I've done striking. I started at a very early age, of 7, I think, with karate, Shotokan karate, and I was champion at that and European champion, like numerous times, British champion, and that was my passion. I did that all the way until my like 20, I think. So at heart, and as you can tell in most of my fights, I'm always looking to get to my feet and strike, and I like to strike. And there's always a running joke in the gym that I don't think I've ever shot a double leg takedown in any fight. I mean, there's been instances where there's been a takedown occurred off of the fence or from a clinch, but yeah, I'm never really looking to wrestle. Well, I haven't been. I do in the gym, and I love wrestling. I love jiu-jitsu, but when I get in there, it's where I feel most comfortable is striking. I feel like I could strike with any lightweight in the division in Bellator, but in the world, you know. So yeah, that's definitely my go-to.
Mm.
But don't be
And
surprised if I shoot a single leg in my next fight or something. You know, I might try and catch someone off guard.
you've got a traditional martial arts background. And I think what you've managed to do really well is then incorporate that skill set with other aspects of mixed martial arts. Do you take pride in the fact that you've been able to like build a skill set that's so well rounded that other fighters simply can't?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I'm very proud of everything I've achieved in MMA, and you you know it's a really tough sport to make it for every and a lot of people very close to me didn't even believe that I could, and even myself at times perhaps had little wobbles where I didn't think I could, and I really just stuck to practicing my craft every day. I'm disciplined, and it's nice that it's paid off, and I take pride in what I've achieved so far already. You know, like headlining the Bellator for my debut and my face all on billboards around Birmingham was, you know, surreal to be honest. And it's again, I'm very proud of it. I have a young son who's 6, and when he grows up, and I want him to be proud of what I've achieved, and he's got all these fights and posters and stuff to look back on and my achievements. So, yeah, and I don't feel anywhere near done. You know, I feel like I'm only just getting the best of me out now in fights. I feel like I've got a lot more to give and to show. So yeah, it excites me, and I'm just going to keep going on this journey.
Well, it's interesting you say that you've got a lot to give, and you still feel like you're just getting into your best because you are unbeaten in 4. You're on a great run of form, and as you've mentioned, coming off the back of a very good win against Saul Rogers. What's the reasoning behind this unbeaten streak in your eyes?
I think a massive part of it is momentum and consistency. So just I had like one thing I've always no, I haven't always had, but I've had periods of bad luck through my career where injuries and whatnot, which, you know, that's no excuse because you get them in this sport. But one thing I felt like the last couple of 3 fights has helped is just having consistency. So going to a year, you know, having a fight camp, fighting, assessing the fight, having that growth from the fight and the performance, and then evaluating that and then correcting and then going again and no, just not taking my foot off of the gas really. And with COVID, with severe injuries that I've had, and there's been periods of time where I haven't been able to get that momentum. In a perfect world, I would love to fight 4 times a year, but Bellator have a big roster and perhaps not as many shows as other promotions and stuff, so they do struggle to get us out. But contractually, I'm guaranteed 2 a year, so in a if I could get 3, that would be great. But yeah, I put it down. The two major factors are just consistency and staying on it and having the fights and the growth from the fights, and then just the team change and stuff. The level of guys I'm working with now, and new coaches as well. I've took on new coaches that have just I don't know, just grown my striking even more. So that's where I would say it comes from.
Yeah, well, it's interesting you talk about growing as a fighter, because in that last split decision win over Rogers, you looked really good. How do you assess that performance yourself?
Well, I mean, firstly, I don't know how they scored it a split decision. I think it was clear he won the first round. There was no argument there. And then, although I damaged him more, he controlled me on the ground, and he had 2 good deep submission attempts. But in the second and third, I completely dominated. He had no control. And I pieced him up really. I caused a lot of damage through those last 2 rounds. So I don't know what that one judge was doing, maybe on his phone or something. I don't know. I mean, he wasn't obviously, but yeah, it's what happens when you leave it to the scorecards. I honestly think if it had been a 5-round fight, I'd have got the finish. As the fight goes on, I tend to get better. It's I've got weird cardio like that. But sorry, you'll have to remind me of the question. I apologise, I'm waffling
That's
on.
right. So, how do you rate your performance overall in that fight?
Oh, okay. Yeah. No, it was great. I was very happy with my performance. Leon was extremely happy with my performance. He was really buzzing for me. And, that's where he looks. The result's the result. But he wants to see me level up like this every fight, every performance. And he says that's, by far your best performance against arguably your toughest opponent. Sol comes with a lot of hype. He's very, very good. He brings a really strong game. So that's how you measure it, really. And I was very happy from it. I was hoping it was enough to perhaps get onto a lightweight tournament next year. My manager's chasing it, and we'll see what Bellator come back with. If not, I'll keep working toward. My goal's simple. I want that title, so I'll keep working towards that.
Yeah, and it's interesting you kind of mention how you want to keep in the circuit, you want to keep fighting regularly, because between that Charlie Leary and Yves Lonju wins, there was a long layoff because of both COVID and injuries. I think I've seen you mention before that you tore your ACL and your MCL in the lead up to a fight against Chris Bungard. How frustrating was that period for you?
Uh, it's the hardest thing I've ever done. I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. It's tough. Injury, serious injury like that. That essentially is a career-ending injury if you let it be. But that combined with it was this time of year, so the temperatures were hitting how it was when I was doing my first bit of my major bit of my rehab, and the gyms were shut. So I was doing it in an empty warehouse with DIY gym stuff. It was so mentally demanding of me to stay disciplined and focused with it. It would have been so easy to sit on the sofa in the warmth and just try and do a little bit at home, but I forced myself to do it, and it paid off. Luckily, I think it showed my mental strength and just how motivated and how much I believe that I can do this and I want it. But yeah, it was very frustrating because it would have been a great matchup with Chris Bungard. It would have been, like I say, straight off of the Leary fight. Well, I believe actually before I was matched with Bungard in around October time, I was matched with Alfie Davis in May, and that got shut down because of COVID. So, like I say, these things are out of my control to a degree. So you just have to stay focused. It wasn't like everyone else was fighting and I wasn't. Everybody was in the same boat. But yeah, it's extremely frustrating. But when it's out of your control, what can you do? You just got to stay positive and keep grinding.
Yeah, well, it shows your mental strength, doesn't it? As you said, that you managed to keep going with it in those empty warehouses in the freezing cold. And although you obviously do want to be fighting on a regular basis, looking on the brighter side of it, was there any benefits you saw from that layoff?
Yeah, there was actually. So when you train in MMA and you're always in camp and you're always like look growing your skill set outside of camp and stuff, you don't get much time to focus on other things. So I was able to all for the first 6 months I couldn't do any martial arts whatsoever. So I was able to do more strength training, and I started doing also some gymnastics training and gymnastic strength training. So a lot of upper body and core and stuff. And that really helped me. I found when I returned to the sport, I just felt better athletically. And I think a lot of people said if you look at my body when I cut weight and when I fight Charlie Leary compared to when I stepped in and I had my return fight against Landu 2 years later, you could see like physically my shape and I looked more like an athlete. So I put that down to that 6 months solid gymnastics work that I did during that time period.
Hmm. Now, Bellator Dublin, I've seen you mention it before. I've seen you hint at it on your Instagram as well. At the moment, how likely does it look that you'll be fighting on that card?
Uh, Unfortunately, it's looking unlikely. Bellator are aware that I want on that, and you know they know I keep myself ready, so I can make weight kind of on 2 3 weeks notice, and I'm always fit and ready to go. So, and I shall probably even throughout the end of January, start of Feb, even push it up another notch as regards fitness, etc., just in case someone drops out. I know Peter Keely's on there against somebody, so I'll be ready to step in. But the likelihood is quite low because Peter Keely's a smart fighter. I was pulled out before due to injury, but he wants to fight. He wants to get a win again. He's on 2 fight loss. So I can't imagine he would injure himself in camp, although you never know. Or his opponent might. I would love to step in and fight Keely. I think he's ranked top 10 as well. And I keep shouting for these top 10 guys now because I just kind of think like, who else is there now really in Europe and whatnot outside of the top 10? But yeah, so unfortunately, it's not looking likely, but you never know. Never say never. So,
Yeah, never say never. And if that doesn't come through, have you got any idea of when you'll next be returning to the octagon?
well, I want to be out. I've told my manager I want to be out in the first quarter, before kind of end of March, but it's down to the powers that be. So they tend to do a couple, maybe three European shows in the first half of the year before June. So, I believe I'll be out before June. As and when, I don't know. They haven't announced, I mean, I haven't even got any sneaky information to give you. They haven't announced anything online, and I don't know anything myself, but they know I'm ready and waiting to go. So, fingers crossed before June.
Finally, Tim, we're nearly in the new year. What are your goals for 2023?
My goal remains the same. I have a big goal of becoming Bellator champion. That's my number one goal, my dream, what I'm chasing, what I'm pushing for. I have some little goals. I'm slowly trying to build my brand, the Team Wilde MMA brand. To so that I've got something to move on to after training, after finishing fighting. Sorry. But yeah, just keep working, just keep building my craft. I mean, the goals remain the same, really. I'm not one of these like, oh, it's new year, new me. It's like this is what I've been doing for a couple of years now. So the goals remain the same. Keep building my skill set, staying ready, keeping injury free, keep working hard, building the Renegade team, and just keep winning. And let's all get the belts.